Chris, are you there?
I am here.
Okay, we've been on the air 15 seconds here, so we got another delay, folks. We apologize. And we will do our best here to get the most out of this show. I am not optimistic given the technical issues we've been working with the past couple of days. We apologize to everybody as we have to keep bringing those up, but we're doing our best here. So, Chris, back again on the SEC Daily here. A lot to talk about as usual.
I have done everything short of kidnap, murder, or threaten to get this fixed. I'm going to have to resort to one of those. Going to try one more thing on my end. But yes, I do apologize. We're going to try to talk SEC quarterbacks today. We've got a couple of interesting situations to monitor. Hopefully the broadcast quality is good. I've done all I can do to control it, including hit reboot. But in any case, we will have tomorrow, we'll have LSU and Mississippi State to talk about. We'll have my buddy Matt Moscona with us as we will discuss SEC matchups this weekend, and particularly Mississippi State and LSU. But today, Blake, we're talking quarterbacks.
Quarterbacks, huh? Yeah, that's why I said while everyone was waiting, they could give their quarterback rankings for the SEC if they would like. We may not necessarily rank ours 1 through 14. In fact, we're not going to rank them 1 through 14, but we may kind of touch on who's sort of setting themselves from the pack, who we want to see more from thus far as we head into week 3 and all of that stuff. But I know, Chris, you wanted to bring up before we do that the situations at Alabama and Auburn as just sort of a different talking point within this SEC quarterback discussion.
Well, they actually play into the discussion, Blake, because what we're going to do is I've got 3 categories of SEC quarterbacks. I've got the unlikely to change, the where we could see a change, and I would say a third category of decent chance we see a change. Spoiler alert, that's going to be heavy in the Yellowhammer State, but I think we've got different categories. You could even debate some within there, but look, Alabama and Auburn, and for different reasons, I guess, were the 2 spots where there was quarterback discussion coming out of the weekend. But there's a few other places where, okay, if things for one reason or another don't go according to plan, you could see changes. So we will bring those up. I will categorize those, and very interested to see what the audience thinks about my categories, whether we got it right or wrong. And I guess if we get really bored, Blake, we can do power rankings of SEC SEC backup quarterbacks too, right?
Backup quarterback power rankings. You're only going to get that here on the SEC Daily. So,
yeah. All right. Let me give you my categories. First category I would call unlikely to change. And I'm going to read these off in no particular order. South Carolina, where right now Spencer Rattler has the job, is quite possibly playing better than any other quarterback in the SEC right now. And the backup is Luke Doty, who caught a touchdown pass this weekend. Shane Beamer's full of trickery, but we've seen Luke Doty before. It didn't go exceptionally well when he played. No offense to Luke Doty, but you do the best you can. He's just not an SEC quarterback. And Blake, I don't think you're going to have your backup quarterback out catching passes if you think a change is imminent. I'm just going to go out on a limb, but I'm going to throw that one out there to you.
I would say probably not. Yeah, I don't think that's the case. So, Chris, I'm going to let you keep moving through some of these as I try to help us on the technical side on the back end here while you're working on that. So you guys can leave your thoughts and we'll get them up on the screen here shortly, but we're going to try to fix a couple of these technical things. So.
Okay. All right. I will just go through my category, and I've got 8 in the unlikely to change category. And again, if you're just joining us, we are going through SEC quarterback situations. These are in no particular order, but I think at Arkansas, KJ Jefferson has been there. This is year 5 or 6 overall. He's been the starter for 3 or 4 of those years. He is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. You saw him named the best quarterback in the SEC, according to a few people coming into the season. His backup is Jacoby Criswell, a North Carolina transfer. Actually, they've had a couple of backups from UNC where Drake May is the quarterback. And so UNC's not replacing him anytime soon. A couple guys have jumped ship for greener pastures, I guess, but Arkansas is not replacing KJ Jefferson anytime soon. So I've got him squarely in that grouping of SEC quarterbacks who are not going anywhere. Next one I've got, and again, this is no particular order, Devin Leary at the University of Kentucky. This is a kid that Kentucky really sought in the transfer portal, not just one of the more highly sought players or quarterbacks in the portal, but players, period. Devin Leary's been fine in Lexington so far. I think it is going to get better. He recovered from an injury. He had, I think, a torn pectoral or something along those lines. So he's just I'm not going to say just getting used to playing football again. But when you're off for a while and miss some games like he did a year ago, it's going to take a period of adjustment. When you're joining a new team, new offense, new coordinator, it's going to take a period of adjustment. New running back behind him, transfer Ray Davis, period of adjustment for him perhaps too. But I think Devin Leary is going to be Kentucky's quarterback all season, barring some sort of health scare. Their backup, and I'm going to go through the backups in each of these two. Kaya Sharon, who I think for his career is 17 of 29 for $187, 2 touchdowns and 1 pick. And if you remember last year, this was Kentucky's backup quarterback situation when Will Levis was hurt late in the year. And I can't remember if he was out for injury or if that was a declare for the draft thing. But you remember Kentucky put in a kid at quarterback who hadn't played all year, one of the Wade twins, and I can't think of which one it was now. But in any case, I think it was Keaton. But you got him at quarterback for the Music City Bowl in a bunt fest against Iowa where nobody wanted to score points. And so that's the situation that Devin Leary is not going anywhere anytime soon. All right, number 4 on my list, and again, this is not in any particular order, Graham Mertz at Florida. Graham Mertz, again, this was a kid that Florida pursued very heavily in the transfer portal. Their backup is Jack Miller III. Where are they going? So that's another one that I don't see Florida making a change at quarterback. Graham Mertz was, of course, a very highly rated quarterback out of high school. Started a couple years at Wisconsin with mixed results. But hey, a mediocre quarterback, you start to appreciate him a little bit more when you don't have a quarterback. And I don't think Florida's really got one behind Graham Mertz. Okay, this is one where you could make an argument. And I think it's a little bit of a far-fetched argument, but it's based on the guy behind him. I don't think that Jaden Daniels at LSU is going to lose his job. We talked about him as a potential preseason Heisman candidate, but Garrett Nussmeier's behind him. Highly rated kid, has played well, has got all kinds of talent. You know, if for some reason LSU's season went sideways and Jaden Daniels became a turnover machine, we know how these things go. People are always screaming for the backup quarterback when things don't go well. I have Jaden Daniels in the unlikely to change, not going anywhere category. But if we were going to do power rankings on SEC backup quarterbacks like we joked about earlier, I think you would see Garrett Nussmeier in there somewhere. Okay, next one on my list, again, no particular order, A.J. Swan at Vanderbilt. Very talented kid who got the starting job for Vandy a year ago about this time. Mike Wright didn't play well against Wake Forest. They went to Swan, which I think was their plan pretty early on. A kid with a lot of arm talent, not the most mobile guy in the world, but can really throw the deep ball well, can throw it on a line. A kid that was a 4-star recruit out of high school, sought by a lot of programs, was committed somewhere else. I don't remember now. And Clark Lee plucked him away on signing day. Anyway, A.J. Swan is your starter at Vandy. This was a team that, remember, a year ago had Ken Seals as a 2-year returning starter, went to Mike Wright to start that season, the mobile option, and Mike Wright's name will come up very shortly in this. And when Wright wasn't the guy, they went to Swan rather than Seals, the guy who had been a 2-year starter for them. So, look, I think if if they gave him that kind of edge over Ken Seals a year ago, and he's their recruit, Ken Seals was not, I don't think Vanderbilt's going to be making a change anytime soon as they see A.J. Swan as the face of the program. But Seals did throw a touchdown pass a week or two ago in one of Vanderbilt's games. I think it was Alabama A&M. He was a kid who, again, 2-year SEC starter, 300-yard passing games under his belt. I think if we did do a jokingly put together SEC backup quarterback power rankings, I think Ken Seals would probably be in the top half somewhere. I don't know. You could debate that, but next one up, I said we were going to mention Mike Wright's name. Mike Wright is now the backup quarterback at Mississippi State to Will Rogers. Now, we got some interesting questions, and this is why you could put Will Rogers in the could change category, but I'm not going to. I just think that a guy like that's got all kinds of records is probably going to set NCAA records before it's over. Good kid, good leader, sort of the face of your program. I'm not suggesting that Mississippi State is going to bench him and go to Mike Wright. But what did you see in the opener? You saw Mike Wright get 5 rushes for 95 yards in Mississippi State's win over Southeastern Louisiana, which begs some questions, as does the play selection against Arizona, where Mississippi State threw it, 15 times? Suddenly under Zach Arnett, State's decided it's going to be a little bit of a running team. Well, Mike Wright's a, 10-6, 10-8, 100-meter guy. If they were to go to a more run-focused offense, Wright be your guy. Again, I'm not saying Will Rogers is going to get benched anytime soon. I would be stunned if that happened. But you do have kind of an unusual situation where the offensive identity is changing quickly in Starkville, and you've got a guy in Mike Wright who can run it pretty well. Okay, next up, again, this is one where the number 2 guy is probably somewhere on your SEC power rankings. For backup quarterbacks, that's Max Johnson, who's been at LSU. Of course, he is behind Connor Wegman, who we have been really impressed with so far in A&M's 2 games. Wegman did not throw an interception in his career until last week against Miami. So that's a kid, very talented. I think a lot of fans, whatever A&M's gripes are about the football team this year, they're not around Connor Wegman. So and again, that is a list of, 8 guys where I think the situation at quarterback is very unlikely to change. Again, those guys are Spencer Rattler at South Carolina, KJ Jefferson at Arkansas, Devin Leary at Kentucky, Graham Mertz at Florida, Jaden Daniels at LSU, A.J. Swan at Vanderbilt, Will Rogers at Mississippi State, and Connor Wegman at Texas A&M. Now, I've got another category of guys that you could easily argue that some of these guys could fit in one category or the last category, which we're going to get to, which is where we've got a decent chance of a change. But are we making sense so far, Blake?
I guess we're making some sense. Yeah, I think it, like you said, it's look at all those situations. They feel pretty solid now, as you're going to talk about. There's some others that may not feel as solid based on what we've seen so far. And again, guys, if you want to leave your thoughts on the state of SEC quarterbacks in the chat, you can. And yeah, we will. We'll see what this next group looks like and where the momentum is going for some of these, because it's certainly interesting. We've already seen a couple comments on a few of these, but yeah, this next group is an interesting one.
Okay, the next group of where I could see the situation changing. And again, you could argue a couple of these guys go in the first category where it's unlikely to change. But I saw a few differences here that I will point out, and I'll tell you why. Number 1, again, not in any particular order, but Joe Milton at Tennessee. What I think Joe Milton is going to hold the job all year? Yeah, I think probably. But Blaine, our man Blaine called this in the offseason, Blake. He said, hey, I think that Nico Iamaleava is going to be their quarterback by year's end. Paid the kid a lot of money. He got at least a couple million to come and carry a clipboard so far. Seems like everything's going well. Chemistry's there. Seems like those kids have a good relationship based on what I've heard here and there. Look, Tennessee's 2-0, but it didn't look great always against Virginia. and Austin Peay when Joe Milton threw the ball. Joe Milton, past Spencer Rattler, has maybe been the most scrutinized quarterback in the league. The accuracy has probably been the subject of a meme or two. Joe Milton can throw a ball through a brick wall, but that's not always the touch you want on a ball. We saw some accuracy issues. I think he started 1 for 8 against Austin Peay. Didn't see those. I think not all of that was on him. But you've got some little things that have popped up with accuracy. And when you've got a guy that you're paying a bunch of money to, the way the Vols are, Nico Iamaleava, when you got a collective that's very active and aggressive, hey, you start to hear some noise. People start wondering, why is our guy not playing? Blaine pointed that out before the season. Look, I think Joe Milton deserves a fairly solid leash, but let's say Tennessee goes down to Gainesville this weekend, which I don't think is going to happen in terms of Tennessee losing, but let's say it happens. And the offense underwhelms a little bit. I guarantee you what we're going to hear first thing Monday morning, if not way before then, probably will hear it before then on Knoxville call-in shows, is, hey, it's time for a change at quarterback. Why have we got this stud recruit if he's sitting the bench? He's getting paid all this money. We've seen this from Joe Milton before. The accuracy issues pop up. With the pressure cooker that is SEC football, you could easily see that happen, a quarterback controversy. You can see the seeds of it. Again, not saying it's going to happen. I think personally, Tennessee is going to go to the Swamp this weekend and beat Florida decisively. But you were looking for situations where you could see things changing, and there's some things in Joe Milton and some things in the backup situation that you could draw out a script for things happening to change that situation, and that is the point that I'm making there.
Tennessee's
next
upcoming
one
schedule.
I've got,
at Florida,
and Blake, feel free to chime in if you've got something here. We've got a little bit of a delay, I believe.
There's a stunner. Go ahead, Chris. Just keep going. I'm just going to sit back and work on the technical issues. Go ahead.
Sorry, I think. Ole Miss is one that I don't think it's going to change. Jackson Dart has come out and had 2 big first games. As Ole Miss's rushing attack is really shockingly not gotten off track. You think Quinshon Judkins, certainly a player of the year candidate in the SEC preseason, maybe the best running back in the country. You would think that Ole Miss would be running the ball much better than it is, but it's not right now. Jackson Dart is doing a tremendous job of picking up the slack. I think Ole Miss is averaging close to 12 yards per passing play if you take sacks out of it. That's tremendous. So based on play, and again, Jackson Dart went through a competition in the offseason and won the job. Based on current play, Jackson Dart's not going anywhere. But what does Ole Miss have behind Jackson Dart? Not 1, but 2 high-profile backup quarterbacks. And Spencer Sanders, who was I believe a 3-year starter at Oklahoma State, can run the ball a little bit, so can Jackson Dart. But in that offense, it's always good to have a mobile guy, a guy that has been there before. What happens if Jackson Dart has a couple of bad games in an Alabama game or something like that? It's the SEC. You never know. Yeah, that's Thanks, one Blaine. That based on the backup situation, you could see a potential change. And then you got Walker Howard, who was at LSU, a legacy at LSU, by the way. Walker Howard would be in the top half of power ranking backup quarterbacks in this league, just in terms of talent. We hadn't seen him produce much because he hasn't gotten a chance. He was behind Daniels at LSU and Nussmeier, but Walker Howard, very talented guy. So Ole Miss not only with 1, but 2 guys behind Jackson Dart who are very, very good. Missouri. Now, this one could get interesting. I don't think Brady Cook is losing his job, but the clamoring in Missouri is fans are starting to get a little disgruntled. Let's see Sam Horn. And Sam Horn was a very high-profile recruit. He's a baseball player. He's a guy fans want to see. But when he has been in games so far, they've not let him do a lot. And look, Eli Drinkwitz is no dummy. If he's not playing more, the reason is going to be he's just not ready. They haven't let him do a whole lot when he's been in games. Brady Cook is not the most exciting quarterback in the league, but he is mobile, doesn't make a ton of mistakes. He's not going to be a game changer, but that offense also not scaring anybody. And when teams start to underachieve, two guys often come to the forefront. That's your quarterback and your coach. I think we're seeing both of those in Columbia. I did not have this in the decent chance of a change category because I just think that what you were seeing with Sam Horn is coach doesn't think he's ready for whatever reason. So, look, I don't think this is going to change, but sometimes when that seat gets really hot and fans get really upset and Brady Cook isn't performing up to whatever expectations that fan base have, that is a recipe for change. And again, just going to throw that one out there. Last one is Georgia. Carson Beck has, I think, been fine. Maybe Blaine can weigh in and add his own adjective here. He's in the chat. But Brock Vandegrift is the backup. Vandegrift was a top 25-ish recruit. His third year on campus was 2 of 3 for 77 yards and a score against UT Martin, 0 of 2 against Ball State. A very talented kid. There was some talk of hitting the portal earlier in the summer, did not, chose to stick it out and battle with Carson Beck for the job. Beck is in, I think, 4 years. Very talented kid in his own right. So is Georgia making a change? I doubt it. Would it be anytime soon? If it did, probably not. But that's one to watch just because we don't have enough of a sample size, I think, out of Carson Beck to really know yet. So anyway, that's where we are, Blake. As you may have figured by deductive reasoning, we got two schools to talk about, and they both happen to be in the same state. So with that, let me take a breath, and I'll let you throw on some questions here.
Yeah, we will do our best here to kind of alleviate the delay issues. But as Blaine noted, he wants Brady Cook to be freed. Let the man run. And yes, and also noting zero chance of that change at Georgia, Chris. I would agree with that. I don't see that happening. I think Carson Beck is going to be the guy. And again, guys, be sure to keep leaving your comments here, questions you have on these SEC quarterback situations. We're going to have a little fun if our technology allows here in just a couple minutes. We'll wrap up a little early today, probably with a little buy or sell. You guys can have fun with a little buy or sell on some of the narratives going around in the SEC right now as we enter week 3. So that should be a lot of fun. But Chris, I will let you wrap it up with Alabama and Auburn.
Yeah, well, let's go to Alabama first. If you're listening to this or watching this, you probably saw the Texas game. And what you saw was Jalen Milroe missing receivers. What you saw was Jalen Milroe not seeing a safety underneath in coverage. I'm not going to blame the Texas loss on Jalen Milroe. That wouldn't be fair. But we had questions about this going into the season. As recently as last week, we were saying, hey, what if Nick Saban is just sandbagging us all? Alabama's always got quarterbacks. It's always got talent because it's Alabama, right? But offseason, what did Alabama do? It brought in Tyler Buchner, who fans at Notre Dame were not exactly crazy about, which begged a lot of questions about why does a guy at Notre Dame that's got a job there come to Alabama to compete behind kids that have been on the roster longer than him? Begged a lot of questions. And he's also playing with his old offensive coordinator. Now that we're a game in and Alabama's got a loss in a high-profile game, in Alabama terms, its season is on the brink a little bit because Alabama loses one more. Going to be really tough for the Crimson Tide to make the playoff, and that's where the bar is set every year, that and SEC titles. SEC title not off the table, by the way, of course, because Texas is not in the SEC yet. But in any case, you saw it on display with Jalen Milroe. Why people might want to change. It just wasn't working very well in that game. Those turnovers ended up being huge in terms and just missed throws in terms of Alabama losing that game. I guess the question is it Tyler Simpson? Is it Tyler Buchner? Who do they go to next? They have got a golden opportunity against South Florida to play some other guys in a game that they should blow people out. So that might put a little extra attention on Alabama and South Florida this weekend, just because we have this quarterback situation that we don't know where it's going to go. All right, lastly, Peyton Thorne and Robbie Ashford at Auburn. Ashford ended last season as a starter. I thought got better, showed some things. They brought in Peyton Thorne out of the portal. He's been fairly pedestrian so far. I mean, Auburn went and won a football game at Cal in which he threw for fewer than 100 yards. Defense won them that game. Cal missing field goals also helped them win that game. But you're starting to hear a lot of noise about Robbie Ashford. Again, who's the most popular guy on SEC campus? It's your backup quarterback. Now, Peyton Thorne's not been great so far, 19-31 for 235, 3 touchdowns and a pick. Robbie Ashford is 3 of 9. No touchdowns, no interceptions. Last year was better than that. Of course, Ashford really good with his feet. So, Hugh Freeze is an offensive genius, an innovator. Maybe he's got something in there where they go to more a ground-based quarterback. And let's face it, when Auburn had some of its better seasons over the past couple of decades, they've had a mobile quarterback. I don't know how much that means here, but that's certainly helped. And so that's one that I think people are watching. When your starting quarterback goes out and throws for 100 yards, which is what Thorne did last week, that begs some questions. Again, I'm not blaming Peyton Thorne. I didn't get to watch much of that game, but you start to hear some talk about it, and that's kind of where we are. So I think we've gone through all 14. Again, if you're just joining us, I've got 8 quarterback situations in the category of unlikely to change. Those are South Carolina with Spencer Rattler, Arkansas with KJ Jefferson, Kentucky with Devin Leary, Florida with Graham Mertz, LSU with Jaden Daniels, Vandy with AJ Swan, Mississippi State with Will Rogers, and Texas A&M with Connor Wegman. I've got 4 in the category of I could see these teams making a change for one reason or another. Tennessee with Joe Milton, could go to Nico Iamaleava. Ole Miss with Jackson Dart, could go to Spencer Sanders or Walker Howard, both of whom transferred in. Missouri could go from Brady Cook to Sam Horn, just because. And Georgia, Carson Beck to Brock Vandegrift. We just hadn't seen enough of Beck to know, and Vandegrift was a very talented 5-star level recruit. And then Auburn and Alabama for reasons that at this point are fairly self-explanatory if you've watched those games.
All right. As always, guys, leave your feedback, your comments on everything. And look, I think there were some good points brought up. We kind of kept moving along in the list, Chris, but talking about the change of quarterback for Alabama, will the tackles be able to hold up if they make that change there? We talked about the Alabama offensive line. So, yeah.
Look, Alabama's problems, and I apologize if there's a delay here. Alabama's issues were far from Jalen Milroe. I thought Texas was clearly better on both lines of scrimmage. I thought that Texas's receiving core looked better than Alabama's, although the quarterback did a better job of getting the ball there. But that offensive line, when I watched of Alabama's, really concerned me. So this is that's a great point. Whoever the quarterback is at Alabama, you're going to have some issues until you get some blocking figured out. And Milroe is by far the most mobile of those guys too. So maybe that factored into him winning the job.
Lucas asking about KJ Jefferson, if he would get more hype if he was at a bigger SEC school. I don't know about that. I mean, because I think but I don't know. I mean, listen, I know Arkansas fans weigh in all the time. They don't sometimes feel like they get the respect that they deserve. And I mean, we talked about KJ Jefferson a lot. So I think for us, I mean, we probably giving him a lot of hype, plenty of hype. Nationally, I don't know if that's the case because I don't necessarily pay attention to everything in terms of the national hype train and such. But I don't know. I mean, it's always an interesting question, I suppose. But I guess, Chris, that can segue into this right now. I mean, do we just base it on the 2 games we've seen so far, or do we just kind of look at this as a whole still and say, who's the best quarterback in the SEC? I mean, are there different answers in terms of who's the best right now versus who is the best quarterback, period? Or is that the same? Is the answer the same through 2 weeks?
Well, hold that thought a minute because I want to check some receipts on that assumption. I'm grabbing the 3 preseason magazines I got in front of me, and right now my gut feeling is checking out. Phil Steele had KJ Jefferson second team All SEC behind Jaden Daniels in his preseason magazine. Athlon had KJ Jefferson as its first team All SEC quarterback. And Lindy's, let's see. This is here somewhere. Lindy's goes Jaden Daniels, KJ Jefferson. I don't remember what the voters voted for the preseason All SEC teams, but I don't know this KJ Jefferson disrespect thing. Unless you think the bar should be unquestioned favorite for the Heisman, I'm just not seeing it. I think he's gotten plenty of respect.
I picked him as the offensive player of the year in the SEC as one of my bold predictions for Arkansas. So I'm pretty high on him. I mean, I don't know how that pans out in the end, but we learn from here on, I think, exactly who emerges. I mean, look, SC Scout Guy brings up the point here that
Yes.
I mean, whether you want to admit it or not, like I said, Spencer Rattler's played well, and we talked about the offensive line issues against North Carolina and such, and what that could mean long term. But if you're going by just 2 games, I mean, yeah, and obviously had a strong finish last year, so yeah, I mean, he's definitely improved his stock. There's no question about that. So, yeah, no question.
we tend to reward guys that play on championship level teams with player of the year in all conference. But let's say South Carolina goes 6-6, but Rattler continues to have the season he's having. Can he end up making first team quarterback? Because like if you had and I guess it's kind of stupid to do this through 2 games, right? But if you had a war for college football, I would think Spencer Rattler would be up there in the SEC right now.
Will that be the case after week 3?
Wins above replacement, not the actual battle. Just going to clarify that. But anyway.
Yeah, will that be the case after week 3? Because South Carolina plays at Georgia this weekend.
Got sacked 9 times in the opener, was still pretty good, though.
Well, I get it, but North Carolina is also not Georgia in terms of defense. And I think this is a much tougher situation. But again, listen, if the conversation coming out of it is South Carolina loses, Spencer Rattler still plays really well, then yes, he is undoubtedly in that discussion moving forward, because we can do that on the road against Georgia, which will be way easier said than done. Yeah, we'll see. So we will see what happens. But yeah, again, appreciate the kind words from everybody here. Chris, we always appreciate it. Yeah, one of our regulars here. Go Aggies, right, Chris? And yeah, Lucas, no problem. We appreciate you joining us here. And yeah, lots of fun stuff on the channel. If you're new here, if you're just coming back, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. Really helps us out. Check out all the stuff we got on the channel, not only the daily show, 11 to noon every day. Technology may allow moving forward. We'll see. We got the morning report with Blaine every morning. We got our predictions every week, our power rankings, all kinds of stuff. Reaction shows Saturday nights after the games. So yeah, a lot of stuff here if you're an SEC fan. So I know we're gonna go to this one, Chris. Be Beamer's weapon of choice in this war that you seem to speak of, Chris. What is this battle you were speaking of earlier? This war stuff.
Okay, if you were a baseball fan, you understand that the concept of war, wins above replacement. It's like taking a guy.
Do
say
you
got.
Does every baseball fan understand that?
No, probably not. Blaine doesn't understand.
You're taking that as a given. I don't think everyone knows what war is. I mean, I don't know about that, Chris.
Let me explain the concept of war. It's wins above replacement. It's taking a guy, a quad A player. In other words, the kind of guy that goes back and forth between AAA and the majors all the time, and setting that as a replacement level standard. In other words, what war is in baseball, it's how many wins does a guy that is above that standard get his team in a given year. It's a very complicated formula. I'm not sure that I always agree with it. But if you could perfect it, it makes a lot of sense, right? And my point with Spencer Rattler was that a lot of the issues around him that caused them to lose that football game against North Carolina had nothing to do with him. And with the deficiencies around him, the offensive line, running game, the fact that they're playing as well as they are on offense says a lot about Spencer Rattler. So I don't know if you could do a war for college football. I wonder where Spencer Rattler comes out at season's end, given what we've seen so far.
Yeah, we'll find out. Yeah, we had some fun with that one, Blaine. We just wanted to make you dissect the concept of war, Chris.
But
War and
Blaine's
Peace
question was
with
a good
Chris
one,
Lee.
though.
War and Peace with Chris Lee. That's yeah. So, anyways, all right, guys, we'll keep rolling. All right, Chris, let's have some fun here because we do have to hop off a little early. Don't worry, I see the comment on the screen as does everyone else. All right, we're gonna go buy or sell. Okay, buy or sell. We're gonna have some fun with this when you guys leave your comments to each of these, whether you're buying or selling some of these narratives. Bob wants to know, what is a quarterback? He's asking for an Auburn friend. I know Bob's not asking for himself. He's just asking for an Auburn friend. He's not asking for himself. I know that. Bob,
Well, right now he's a guy that throws for about 117 yards a game,
well,
which might not be ideal.
All right, Chris, buy or sell? You ready? All right.
Yeah.
Are you buying that? I'm doing something LSU related here because I think this is. Are you buying that LSU can still be a SEC West champion / college football playoff participant?
Yes.
Okay.
Would you like me to elaborate?
Yeah, elaborate a little bit on that.
Okay. Yes, I believe in their quarterback. I believe in their head coach. I believe in their receivers. I have questions at corner, but a lot of teams have questions at corner. They got playmakers on defense. They did it a year ago where they didn't look so hot in certain phases against Florida State. They didn't look hot in any phase against Tennessee. And where was LSU at end? I think this year's team is better. I'm still buying LSU for now.
Are you buying that Tennessee will finish the season as a top 10 team and that they are elite, Chris? Because we know there have been some people, we've talked about it. There have been times where Tennessee has not been impressive in these first couple of weeks, specifically that first half against Austin Peay. There are some doubts heading into this game against Florida on Saturday, as we know. You said earlier, you think Tennessee wins decisively. The quarterback situation, though, you also mentioned could be up in the air moving forward. If Milton, does some things that Tennessee fans aren't exactly happy with. So, is Tennessee? Do they finish in the top 10? And are they? Which again makes them an elite team. Do they wind up being that at season's end?
Well, I think my real answer is a push because is Tennessee, 10, 11 in the polls right now?
They're, I think, 10 through 11, something like that.
I think that's about right. I looked down the schedule. I think they probably lose to Alabama and to Georgia. And then who knows what in the bowl game, right? That depends on matchup. That depends on who's playing and not playing. I think the bar is set almost exactly where it needs to be. If I had to pick one side or the other, I would probably hit buy, because if we're depending on the bowl game, right? And let's say Milton ends up having a great year, ends up being a first rounder, like some people have speculated. I'm not buying that, but let's just say you've got a quarterback behind him who's very talented, going to step in. We saw how Tennessee played in the bowl game last year. I would buy a little inside the top 10, probably not a lot more. But if you said, like, if it's not 10, are they over or under, I'd probably take them inside the top 10, but I think it's really close.
Here's an interesting one. Are you buying that the Alabama dynasty is done for? That this is it for the Alabama dynasty under Nick Saban? Because here's the way I look at this question. If you're saying, are the days of Alabama winning however many national championships and all of that, I mean, is it realistic to say that's going to be hard to do given maybe the landscape of what Georgia's doing, of what, I don't know, the addition of Texas and Oklahoma and such? I mean, I don't know, right? I think that's a fair thing to wonder. And it's also the fact that Saban each year does what, Chris? He gets older. And, so I mean, I think those are all the things that people have brought up. But I'm kind of with what Lucas says here in that I don't know that I can just completely buy into it though, because it's still Alabama. And I mean, do I think they're going to win back-to-back national championships the next 2 years? I mean, it's probably hard to predict that right now, even though we just saw Georgia do it. But it's like, I don't know that I can just completely buy that this is it for Alabama. I mean, they just lost one game to a Texas team that might be one of the top couple teams in the country. Probably are. So I'm not ready to overreact to that just yet.
Well, I'm glad you filled a couple of minutes there with your thoughts because I needed some to collect mine. My honest opinion is I thought that, and I've got conflicting ideas here that I'm trying to sort out. I thought that the Saban dynasty being over was getting really overbaked heading into Texas. I'm like, this is the perfect thing. Everybody's selling him short. You saw his offseason demeanor, all those things. You're like, this guy's very happily sitting by as people sandbag his team, and he seems fine with it. Okay. And then they hit the field, and you've heard me say the last couple of years, Blake, I watched them. This is not vintage Alabama of 5, 10, even 2 or 3 years ago, where they had Heisman winner at quarterback. They had Derrick Henry's and Mark Ingram's at tailbacks. They had Jamison Williams and Devontae Smith and Jerry Jeudy and all those dudes at receiver. Remember the one year, was it 2020, they had all those guys running around once and nobody could cover them? I look at this team, and at the same time, I'm like, I just don't see those guys. And I've been saying it for a while. But Nick Saban is the greatest coach, not only in college football in our lifetime, he might be the greatest coach in anything in our lifetime. With apologies to Bill Belichick or whoever you want to throw in there. And when you're that guy running a program and you don't ever miss a trick, you have to go, okay, before I jump off on that limb, I want to give that guy the benefit of the doubt. So I had very conflicting thoughts in my mind going into that. And then I saw that Texas game, and everything I feared kind of for them came true. And so I've also been saying this, I've been saying for a while, I think that what you're seeing in college football is all this stuff with the NIL and the portal has very much evened, it's even the playing field. I mean, you look in the SEC, Tennessee has jumped up and gotten competitive. You look across the landscape, Texas has gotten better. I mean, we could pick. I don't even know what the college football playoff race is going to look like at the end. But we said preseason when we tried to do this exercise, we could name a lot of teams, man. There are probably 10 teams on our board. I think that you're seeing some issues with Alabama, and maybe the thing is, does anybody have a dynasty? Maybe that's a question we're asking with Georgia at the end of the year, or maybe not. I don't know. I think if I had to pick a side right now, I would pick the side of dying dynasty, not wholeheartedly. Wouldn't bet a dime on it, but I think you also have to know this is kind of the way that college football is going too. That I think it's going to be really hard for anybody to dominate going forward.
All right, this one's for Chris. And I know Chris is going to leave his the other Chris. Sorry, not for the Chris on the screen. The Chris off the screen. Are you buying or selling that Jimbo Fisher can get this thing turned around this season for Texas A&M to the point where they win 9 or more games, which I think is asking a lot if you get to the double digit. But
does that include
or do you
bowl?
think this, or do you think the Miami game was so glaring in terms of what happened and potential weaknesses for the rest of the season, or at least in the short term, that they drop a couple of games? And I know you're looking at their schedule, and I think that's the way to do it, is to see if they can. Or maybe the better question is this, Chris: are you just buying or selling that Jimbo Fisher can turn this thing around to the point to where he is still coaching there in X amount of years, in the next 2 seasons or whatever you want? And I know we've talked about the buyout will and everything yesterday, but I'm just curious.
Well, first of all, I need to make an apology. I think on our power rankings, I maligned A&M's run defense based on a faulty stat I had in my show prep. So I've been knocking A&M's run defense for a day or two, and I was wrong about that. Their run defense has actually gotten better, and that leads me to my next point. The way they lost that game to Miami was so not the way that I would have drawn it up that I kind of don't know what to think. Sometimes you just get weird games. Ask South Carolina and Tennessee last year. I mean, who saw that one coming, right? As much reason as I have not to buy A&M for all the reasons that anybody listening to this or watching could tell you, I'm kind of buying. And now let me look at the schedule, see if this holds up. Okay.
Talent. They got talent. They just got to
Well,
put it together,
yes,
man. They've never lacked talent, though.
yes.
But
So they're going to lose 2 more. At Tennessee is going to be tough. Either Alabama or Arkansas. Arkansas is in Arlington. Ooh, Ole Miss all of a sudden looking tough. I don't know. Who? I think I might be buying more 8-4, but I think that's an awfully good football team. Blake,
here's a question.
remember last year. Remember how many close games did they play in? It may just be, do they catch a break or do they not? I think that's really close. I think 9-3 to me seems a lot less likely than 8-4. But do they have the talent to do it? Absolutely.
Here's a question. What's acceptable for Texas A&M fans? Like, and if you're going to say that Jimbo gets this turned around, what's an acceptable this season? Is it going 8-4? I mean, is that enough just to be like, all right, all is good? Or, I mean, I know not everyone's going to think that, but just curious how that looks. So.
Realistically, 8-4 should be it. But it's kind of like when you snap at your kid for something, like if you just walk in the room looks piddly, and if you didn't walk in the room, you didn't know that you told him 15 times in the last 5 minutes to brush his teeth. Not that this ever happens in my house. It's that background. Jimbo has built up so much bad will there that I think 8-4 is kind of real. I mean, remember, this is still kind of a young team. Like if they hold it together, crazier stuff has happened than us at this time next year talking about A&M as the number 1 team in the country. Can it get here from there? I don't know, because you got so much stuff that has built up that now little micro offenses are drawing an off the charts reaction. And when you get to that place, it's really hard to reel it back in.
All right. Well, I know your answer to this, Chris, but I'm gonna get the update here in terms of where this is at right now. So I'm gonna stall for a second. Chris, do we want to read something on a particular sponsor or ad, perhaps?
Yes, we do. Thank you to our lone sponsor right now. That's Andy Ludicky of myperfectfranchise.net. Go check out his site. This will explain it in better detail than I will, but here's the gist of things. Andy runs a business in which they match people like you and I with franchise opportunities. And Andy deals with a bunch of companies. He is not incentivized financially or anything to steer you this way or that way. So it's all straight up from the go. Andy will spend a lot of time and charge you nothing for this, by the way, getting to know you, your skills, your work history, your life goals, your goals for your family. Not all of us are Nick Saban working, 18-hour days, 7 days a week or whatever it is. Some of us want time for family. That's not meant as a knock at Nick Saban, but you know what I mean. Some of us value time with family and really have that as a priority right now, especially those of us with younger kids. Andy knows how that all works. So what he does, he takes all these things. He takes your skills, your inventory, your history, and your life's goals, and he matches you with the right franchise. And he does a tremendous job of it. Really good man, high integrity. Go check out myperfectfranchise.net and learn more about how to get where you want to go in life if you're looking for a change. Andy's a great guy to help with that.
All right. Remember, guys, before we hop off here about the next 5 minutes, if you want to leave a super chat, that helps the channel out tremendously. If you want to leave us a nice super chat, you can get your comment highlighted up on the screen. And basically, you're just donating to the channel. If you want us to do more of these videos, you want us to fix any technological issues that may come up, That's a way
Hey,
to help
look
us
at
do that.
this.
So we appreciate you guys on that front. What do you got, Chris?
There's no delay on my end. I'm a little. I think I'm speaking a little quickly at times because I assume there's one on your end. Our viewers are saying there's not, at least on theirs. What if internet's your problem?
No, Chris,
That
calm
might
down.
be the upset of the year.
Yes, calm down. It's not. Let's not get crazy here. Trust me, there is a delay. It's just not at all times. Yes,
Okay.
let's put it that way. So again, super chats. If you want no delay, super chat away. How about that? There's a shirt. Um, anyways, what was I going to get to? Oh, there was one I was going to get to here before we wrap up. But again, guys, we are gonna wrap up in a couple minutes. I think I know your response to this, Chris, but I'm curious what everybody's going to leave in the chat. The Tennessee Volunteers are now only a 6.5 point favorite
Ooh.
on the road at the Florida Gators. Are you buying or selling, Chris, that the Florida Gators will keep this within a touchdown in Gainesville on Saturday?
I'm not buying it. I've made up my mind on these two teams in the offseason. I've not seen enough to change it. The fact that the odds makers have got this so low scares the pants off me because usually they're right and I'm wrong. But when I watch these teams and when I know their talent, when I see what they ended the season as, I just don't. I think Florida is very pedestrian. I could see how it could go wrong with Joe Milton, maybe, but I just think if he just hits a couple of big plays, I think if it turns into a track meet, Tennessee's going to win that game, and I just don't see Florida having the weapons to keep up with it. Could be wrong, but I've not wavered on that for all off season, and I'm not going to waver now.
All right. Well, there you go. All right, Chris. There's something I was gonna. Sorry, I'm trying to find it here from earlier. Shout out to Chris too. Yeah, we're gonna bring Olin back soon. Talk Texas A&M again. Olin's good, as you guys heard yesterday. Good stuff. And quickly before we get back to Charles's question from earlier, shout out to Lucas for the $4.99 super chat. We appreciate that, Lucas. Razorback Nation, love Southeastern 14. Yeah, as we've always said, guys, if you're new to the channel and you weren't here at the start, this was an Arkansas channel for very early on, and the Hogs jumped on board with our guy Steak from Tennessee, and that was about our only audience early on in this thing. But yeah, now over 10,000, 11,000 subscribers, and got a lot more fan bases out there. But Arkansas, you are still at the top. So if anyone else wants to try to outdo Arkansas, you better bring in some more fans because the Hogs are still leading the way in terms of support here of the channel. But we appreciate everyone as always. So back to some thoughts on this Tennessee game that we talked about, and SC Scout guy and Tyler weighing in on that. So Blaine's asking, he's putting me on the spot here. And by the way, shout out to DMAC also leaving the nice comments here as well. Controversial topics. All right, listen, I can come up with some controversial topics if you want those. I'll just put those on Chris, like on the fly. Won't even give him a heads up, and we'll see how he responds
Right.
on the fly to those. But no, we appreciate you, DMAC. And Bob as well. Yeah, this is. Well, I thought we were going to get in some comments,
Bob's
but you
been one
guys
of our
are
long timers.
leaving a lot of great stuff here. So we'll hit on the other stuff. I know Blaine's asking if we want more live coverage today to make up for the air. If you didn't see the morning report this morning, guess what, guys? Here's a shocker. We had some technical issues and we couldn't get the morning report out this morning. But I don't know.
Would you like to hop on?
We'll decide on that if Blaine wants to do something tonight. But I'm open to ideas as always here at Southeastern 14. But Chris, let's hit on this real quickly and then we got to hop off because I've got to go to the next thing. Quick choice. Expect a breakout during SEC play. Who are, any quick picks here? I mean, I would go one of the Tennessee receivers. I just don't know who I would pick. I still think there's a lot of potential there, and maybe people are picking on the passing game, but I would still go one of the Tennessee receivers probably.
Well, I mean, I think it depends on perspective of what? Perspective of career,
Sure.
perspective of this season. Because if it's perspective of this season, it's got to be Quinshon Judkins, right? I mean, he can't keep. He's going to be better than we've seen. Man, career wise, oh, that's a good one.
One of the Arkansas receivers too, as Corey brings up. I think that's a good. We talked about that group as well. I think you could pick one of those guys as well. So yeah,
that would be Isaac DeSlaw would be probably on my short list. He's getting a big volume in that offense at Missouri is Luther Burden. So that might be one too.
Yeah, could be. Blaine's going to go. Yeah, I think this is another. These are good choices. Yeah,
Barry and Brown.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of options. Maybe we'll bring that up tomorrow, Chris. How about that? How about we'll bring it up on Thursday's show? So
yeah,
we'll get back to that, Charles, on Thursday's show. I think that's an interesting topic we can discuss further as well. So maybe we'll bring up the hands of glue also. But we'll leave with this one. SC Scout guy, Chris, saw Coach Kingston there, South Carolina. And we did have an interview with him for baseball season. So hope to get him back. It's a good conversation as well. So, all right, Chris, that's all I got. Again, guys, we appreciate you always hopping on here and supporting everything on the channel and the stuff we do here on the Daily Show, Morning Report with Blaine, everything else we do, predictions, rankings, reaction. It's all here. And I know some of you Arkansas fans, you're focused on football season, but let me tell you, we are about to record an Arkansas basketball season preview here very soon, probably this week at some point. So that will be up, and then we'll go team by team, all of our SEC basketball previews. So if you're new to the channel, yes, we cover basketball, and we will have team previews because the season is less than 2 months away now. So I have all those up, but Chris, wrap it up.
Yeah, if you're new to the channel, and a lot of you are, this is kind of who we are. Without the barking dogs, we usually have a barking dog make an appearance. We did not today, but we try to keep it clean. We don't intentionally seek out controversial topics for hot takes. We try to do our homework. We battle the internet at given times. Still going to try to figure that one out. So if there were tech issues on your end, my apologies. I have done everything under the sun to resolve this on my end, and just the answer varies by day. But anyway, apologies if you did encounter tech issues on your end. I'm going to make a phone call to try one more time to get that fixed. But tomorrow we will talk LSU and Mississippi State. We'll have my friend Matt Moscona on for the LSU angle of that, and look forward to that. And whatever else we come up with. And a lot of that is sometimes dictated by listeners and their questions and their comments, and we always enjoy and appreciate those.
Yep. Appreciate it, guys.
Okay, for Blake Lovell and even Blaine Gilmer in the chat, I'm Chris Lee of Southeastern 14. Thanks for watching. God bless you all. God bless my internet, and we'll see you again soon.